In this video, I am going to explain anatomy and function of tensor fascia lata. Tensor fascia lata is hip muscle. You are looking pelvis and hip from lateral view. You are looking right side. This is tensor fascia lata. Tensor fascia lata. What is fascia lata? I will explain that later. Let me explain from origin first. Origin is ilium, pelvis. You don't see ilium, so let me write down. This is ilium. Tensor fascia lata originates from anterior part. It originates from the most anterior part of pelvis. This is ASIS, anterior superior iliac spine. ASIS. Then it attaches to anterior portion of iliac crest. ASIS is the most anterior point. Iliac crest is this bony ridge, okay? Tensor fascia lata. This is origin of this muscle. Insertion is actually this white tissue. This is iliotibial band. Iliotibial band is myofascia on thigh. Actually, this fascia is the thickest part of thigh fascia. Thigh fascia covers thigh like stocking. It's like a sock of lower extremity. Tensor fascia lata. Fascia lata is fascia of thigh. So fascia lata means a whole part of fascia of thigh. Iliotibial band is the thickest part in fascia lata. Okay? Tensor fascia lata attaches to iliotibial band. Okay? Let me clarify again. Fascia lata is thigh fascia. Iliotibial band is the thickest part of fascia lata. Tensor fascia lata attaches to iliotibial band. It's a little bit confusing. Important thing is this muscle. Tensor fascia lata attaches to iliotibial band. Okay, now let's see elongation of iliotibial band. Where is this fascia going? It's going to inferior part. Where's that going? It's going to lateral knee. This is iliotibial band. It attaches to tibia. This part is called Gardy's tubercle. Gardy's tubercle is on lateral part of knee. Chronic use of tensor fascia lata, iliotibial band, can trigger pain around lateral knee. How come? If your tensor fascia lata gets tight or you use this muscle chronically, that proves tension for iliotibial band because this muscle attaches to this fascia. Okay, then there is tightness, inflammation, dysfunction for iliotibial band. Where is this tension going? It can go to inferior part. That pulls Gardy's tubercle, knee joint, up. Now there is inflammation and pain around here. That is why this lateral knee pain can be triggered from in result of long endurance sports such as running, swimming, long distance bike riding. Long endurance athletes tend to have pain around lateral knee. That is because from chronic use of tensor fascia lata. It's very, very important biomechanics. Anyhow, this is origin and insertion of tensor fascia lata. Origin, ASIS, the most anterior tip of pelvis, and iliac crest. This is origin. Insertion is iliotibial band. It is about here. Now let me talk about function of this muscle. Since tensor fascia lata attaches to pelvis and thigh, this muscle can move both hip and pelvis. Let me explain hip function first. Tensor fascia lata is on anterior part, anterior hip muscle. Thus, this muscle can do hip flexion. Hip flexion plus internal rotation. Internal rotation. And this muscle is on lateral part of hip, slightly on lateral part. Thus, this can do hip abduction. Oh my gosh, that can do so many things for hip, right? Flexion, internal rotation, and abduction. Plus, Name of the muscle is tensor fascia lata. That tenses up fascia lata, thigh fascia, so that can create tension for fascia. Tension for fascia. Well, this is pretty much for hip and thigh. What about for pelvis? Imagine there's pelvis here. What if this muscle pulls pelvis this way, inferior way? What would happen? That brings pelvis to anterior tilt. Oh my gosh, so many functions for lower extremity. For hip joint, flexion, internal rotation, and abduction. Plus that tenses up fascia lata. For pelvis, that does anterior tilt. From now on, let me explain myofascial connection of this muscle. Alright, again, this is tensor fascia lata. As I said, this muscle attaches to iliotibial band. Actually, there is one more muscle attaches to iliotibial band. That's this one. This is gluteus maximus. Oh my gosh, what can I say about from this information? So I say there is connection between gluteus maximus and tensor fascia lata. Not directly, but via iliotibial band. These muscles are connected indirectly. Does it make sense? Tensor fascia lata attaches to iliotibial band. Gluteus maximus also attaches to iliotibial band. So if tensor fascia lata gets tight, this tension may go to gluteus maximus. Vice versa, if gluteus maximus gets tight, this tension may go to tensor fascia lata. You can see anterior-posterior relationship via iliotibial band. And I said, chronic use of tensor fascia lata can trigger lateral knee pain because of this myofascial connection, right? So you can say same thing. Chronic use of gluteus maximus may create lateral knee pain because of connection of iliotibial band. However, this is my subjective opinion. Chronic use of tensor fascia lata tend to create lateral knee pain more than gluteus maximus dysfunction. I don't know, this is just my subjective experience. People have, tight tensor fascia lata, they tend to have lateral knee pain. Theoretically, gluteus maximus may be able to create lateral knee pain, but I have not seen people that have tight gluteus maximus with lateral knee pain. Logically, that's possible, but I think it's less compared to tensor fascia lata tightness, but it's good to know. Gluteus maximus, tensor fascia lata, that both attaches to iliotibial band. Tightness of iliotibial band may create lateral knee pain. Very important biomechanics. In today's video, I explained basic anatomy and function of tensor fascia lata. This muscle attaches to anterior pelvis, then iliotibial band. This myofascial connection can trigger lateral knee pain. Its function is humongous. Flexion, internal rotation, abduction, tenses up fascia, then anterior tilt. Then you can reveal there's myofascial connection between tensor fascia lata and gluteus maximus. It's tiny muscle, yet very important muscle. If you liked today's video, please hit the like button, comment and subscribe. See you next video.